In comparison to the year since 2022, it's been a pretty good year. Now, looking back over the last 15 years, mediocre.
For 10 years, we had the federal government effectively subsidizing mortgage for a non-subsidized year.
Don't you miss those days?
Indeed. I miss the money printer.
I miss those big fat subsidies.
One thing that a lot of folks tend to do is explore new tech, new ideas over the holidays when they have a little bit of space. I was reflecting that there's going to be a lot of folks doing this with AI over the next week and a half. Folks are getting to a fluency point with AI that they may start coming up with some conclusions that lead them to some scary places. Call this the doom spiral.
You did a deep dive
Yes.
into AI over the last few days. We haven't even had a chance to discuss this. So I'm going to just ask you a couple questions, and then you talk about what you came up with, what you saw, what your predictions are. Right off the rip, there's a lot of anxiety about AI. AI taking jobs and making sure that you're up with all the latest technology. Otherwise, you can get buried by a competitor who is. As far as the anxiety portion, what are you still, the more you looked into it, do you have more or less anxiety about AI?
I have an equivalent level of anxiety, but from a different spot. It
Tell me
is
about
not so much that I'm worried about AI taking away our jobs, because jobs morph. Jobs change. There's dislocation, and dislocation is scary. AI really just changes the type of work we do. Every time that we've had a major disruption, whether it be radio, television, internet, it is job dislocation, not job destruction. We find other ways to make people productive.
This is true. There's millions of examples of that.
Yeah.
Let's just, let me point something out. The most common job in America is a driver, whether it's a truck or you're doing Uber or Uber Eats or whatever it is. It's the most common job. It's 2 million employees, but something close to that. So you could say AI probably going to eliminate those jobs. What are those people going to do?
I don't think we're as close to that as you might think. Literally yesterday, just yesterday, there was a blackout, just electric blackout in San Francisco, completely wiped out the Waymo network. 100% toast, just from an electrical blackout. So if you're thinking, well, blackout makes it, but
Waymo's the cars that drive themselves.
right. Start unpacking that to wipe it out, because the cars are self-contained and they use satellite internet or similar. They're not necessarily contained to a Wi-Fi grid. The fact that a rolling blackout in San Francisco causes complete destruction of the Waymo network. And these Waymo cars, they didn't just confused and go park themselves. What they did is they stopped in the middle of the road. This just goes to show you it from a resiliency standpoint. Yeah, all sorts of stuff that we can technically do. Can we send someone to Mars? Yes, absolutely. We can do it right now. Can we send someone to Mars safely and with any hope of return? No. There's a lot.
I've seen the movie Martian, have you?
It's a good movie.
He makes it back.
He does make it back, only with a little movie magic in there, just a touch on it. There's just a huge threshold between what we can do and execute once versus do and execute reliably every time. And when and understand too that if we're talking about slow moving cars, 20 mile per hour max in city streets, cars versus 70 mile an hour multi-ton in traffic, then that's exponentially higher threshold for how safe the technology has got to be before it can roll out. I'm not saying that it won't replace driver jobs, and it's going to be a rolling process. You're seeing exactly where it is now.
Literally.
You're seeing literally where it is now. You're
Literally
seeing
rolling.
some replacement of jobs in cities where risk is less because it's slow traffic, wide internet networks, should have been reliable internet networks, right? No, they weren't. But that's the only place that you're seeing job dislocation and driving right now. And this is a pretty big failure. I mean, this is being talked about quite a bit in those circles.
So when you go into AI, I mean, that's just one portion of AI, these self-driving cars. So it is something that is going to test the consumer to say, oh, I'm worried about this technology, it replaced my job, but it just hasn't shown to be reliable yet.
Exactly.
We've seen that in the mortgage space. Okay, so a number of our lenders have turned to some form or fashion of underwriting rules, and some of the stuff that we get back is totally bonkers. It's
Garbage.
How in the world could somebody be so off on this calculation? And then we find out, well, it was our AI system. Hold out, right?
It's tempting because underwriting is rules-based, and you think, well, it does pretty well with a decision tree and underwriting, but it just doesn't quite map perfect yet. Stubs still have too many differentials. They still have, there's still not enough uniformity. Getting there, we're not that close. But I don't want to diminish the threat. There are some jobs, but as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, legal analysts, because legal language is highly structured, and this is a learning language model, not a numbers model, not a rules model, language model. It can do a really good job at some forms of legal analysis and copy and paste from previous best practices. That's actually
There's definitely going to be jobs that are eliminated.
Yes.
There's no question.
It is.
So then the
wild
question
to
is,
say.
does it create more opportunities for more jobs for those people who don't work it? Right? You could say, back when it was the horse and buggy, right? That change from combustion engine from horse and buggy was like 10 years or so. It was really fast. And think about that. There was this whole infrastructure around horses, okay? The horses to move all the people around at stables and people going around picking up the poop out of the streets. And it was just, it was actually kind of a biohazard in big cities. It was a real problem. So all this infrastructure needed to be taken up to deal with the horses. Well, it's gone in 10 years. Now, and people obviously pretty worried about at the time if you were in the horse business, but the transportation industry came out of that and it really expanded, right? Grew the country tremendously, created all these other jobs. So in the end, it actually was a huge benefit to us switching over to cars from horses. So are we going to see that same thing in AI though? What industries is it going to create that we don't have now that's going to create better jobs than we have now?
We have to accept that we can't always see what it's going to be, but just simply trust that we always have figured it out. We've always filled up labor space. It's always happened, right? Let's take the internet.
That's true.
Internet. What did some of these jobs become? They became SEO experts. They became support people. You had entire layers of internet sales support, specific to internet, that are completely novel jobs. Like in days of yore, a salesperson was just a salesperson. They didn't have infrastructure to optimize internet marketing behind them. Those were novel, completely new creations out of nowhere. Influencer is a real job class. And what
is it though?
It is. People get real revenue from it.
Yeah.
Meaningful revenue. We've done mortgages for influencers that their only form of income is Twitch. It's meaningful money. It's a meaningful job market that completely came from nowhere because no one expected that the internet would create an individualized media market where instead of money flowing to big media centers, we effectively create our own channels. People prognosticated, but no one prognosticated the scale that effectively people became their own CBS or ABC and became the primary media, that an individual would become the primary media brand. And let's not forget, it's not just that individual. Mr. Beast is a 25, 30 person company, right? It's an individual, but that person has
he
25
sells chocolate now.
Right.
Good.
I mean, 25, 30 is probably vastly understated, but it's not just individual influencers that are gaining money and gaining jobs. They create little media companies underneath them. You're talking about thousands.
So if you're a business person, okay, after you're studying over the last number of days, and I've done plenty of studying on this too, as a business person, okay, in 2026, going into 2026, how do you position yourself? What do you do?
I'm going to get into what AI really alarmed me about, something it really alarmed me about over the past couple of days. And I'm going to use this as an example of it for children. Y'all are just going to have to entertain me for a little bit on this because it's going to go a little in depth. So I had asked it, one thing I've discovered is that AI is actually excellent at synthesizing historical information, things that have already happened, and coming up with analysis and conclusions.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Things that will happen, it can do an okay job at, but it's going to lead you into some extraordinarily scary places if you don't know exact, precise language of how to do it. So I started all this with, I've been using AI pretty heavily over the past week and change, and among the observations I had is that a lot of our public officials are starting to use terminology that shows up at a far more represented in AI output versus how we talk in public. One thing, just one term that triggered this in my head, and I've heard it in other places, this last one, when War Hegseth was put out his video about redoing the chaplain corps, and he used the term unserious. Unserious, I mean, there's a little bit of a poppy aspect to it, but it's a little on the rare side. Plugged in this list of terms of seeing more AI output from public officials. They're taking it kind of like, well, where are you? Why are you AI? Why are you using these rarer terms? Well, they turn out in policy documents, things like the Atlantic, foreign policy, these like really high-minded, logically structured articles. Okay, take a lot of. I put overweight. Very honest. AI is extremely honest. I put overweight impact on arguments and sources that I can follow for logical coherence. So, for example, the speech by President Trump because it doesn't have a logical coherence or structure, it's just not what he's trying to do, that doesn't really register with AI. What does register is like a threat analysis in foreign policy or war military examination. So what this leads to happen is AI itself starts overweighting these sources when it analyzes things. So then I was like, okay, if your output is based more heavily on logically coherent things like these legal briefs, these things like that, well, that someone putting an article in a paper, what you're doing is you're training people not to have power, because power doesn't put an article or an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. When someone writes an op-ed, they're a supplicant to power. They're petitioning power. Okay? So you train people to speak in these ways. Aren't you training people to speak in a language that identifies themselves as not having power? Which is a scary thing, and we've seen this multiple times, like in Imperial Japan and in the Court of England, where the people who have power, the aristocracy, defined themselves by the language that they used and excluded people who didn't speak the way that they did. So my started grounding in how much of a risk is it that AI is at, and it's not just public officials that are talking like constraint, those type of things. I hear them more commonly when I'm just reading posts on the internet. I can tell they're human, but people are using more of these terms. I'm like, the more that you speak a subservient language, doesn't this cause some problems? So anyway, like, oh, okay.
Very interesting observation.
I'm getting there. It's just an observation yet. But yeah.
Now, well, it's, and I don't want to take it too far away from it, right? But I'm seeing this all the time. When I see posts, it's like, and if you go to AI and you say, hey, write this, it's writing something, and then you're going in and checking to make sure it sounds like you in the message that you're trying to deliver. But it's not what you would have written necessarily, right? By what it's telling you. Okay, so
I noticed
AI
myself using more AI
majorly influencing, well, politicians, leaders. I mean, say everybody at this point. We're all being influenced by a machine at this point.
Yeah, and it's a little bit scary. I've asked ChatGPT, and when I ask you this question, am I coding you or are you coding me? Right, and it says, no, you're still coding.
Probably a little bit of both.
It is.
Probably a little bit of both, right? Well, I guess the big question is, we have a good idea of how AI is coded. What we don't know is how we're coded necessarily. Individual people are coded. So some people might be very easily coded. Other people might be very difficult.
How it's acting upon us. Here's where this could go into doom spiral. So then I'm like, okay, so one best practice, everybody should know this if you watch this for AI, is let's say you have ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, you have a collection of chats. ChatGPT or Gemini, if you ask them a question, it's going to take what you've created when you make these chat logs with ChatGPT or Gemini is you've created new knowledge for the AI contained within those chats. So something that you have to do for your question not to be significantly influenced by either the chat you've already had with them or the chat that you're currently in. So if I ask an unrelated question, if I open up a chat with ChatGPT about poker and then ask it a question about inside that poker chat with ChatGPT, I ask it a completely unrelated question to poker, it's going to analyze that question through a poker frame. Furthermore, it's going to take some context from every conversation I had with it. So if you need an answer in a vacuum, outside of influence from anything you've told it, because you've created novel knowledge for it that it wants to pull from, and also it wants to examine it through the lens of the individual chat, you have to start a completely fresh chat, and you have to specifically ask it to isolate its answer from all the knowledge that you've created together, and also not have any background noise in that chat. That's the first thing that you got to do. I learned a second. So I said, okay, ChatGPT. And I did this right before I went to the grocery store. Perform a risk analysis on this dynamic that I'm talking about, that we are being trained by AI to speak in certain ways that identify us as a subordinate class of people because of the way that we speak, because people that speak to power or are complaining to power is the people that you are drawing your language from. And I asked it in a very complex, technical way. And I thought, because I was very careful. At this point, I was like, I was nervous. And then it was like, yeah, perfect. Threat level high, probability, and gave this beautiful big long thing about why this was like an imminent threat. And then I go to Kroger with my wife. I'm just sitting there staring at the yellow squash.
This is one aspect I don't think is on anybody's radar.
Right. Well, it's not on anybody's radar for a good reason, because when you start diving deep,
it's a slow creep too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back. I promise.
Okay.
Back and as I'm in Kroger staring at the plums and considering my life, I realize a couple things. I'm like, well, did it account for the fact that our development of AI changes? That we're in a fast-moving environment. Won't our sources, won't the large language models start adapting? I started thinking of all these factors. I realized it wasn't named in the output, and I was like, oh, let me ask it about it. So I come back home, I get on ChatGPT, I'm like, okay, well, I didn't see anything about X or Y or Z in your risk analysis. It was like, well, Morgan, it didn't call me Morgan. We're not that familiar. Well, occasionally does that. I didn't consider those things because when you give me ask me to do a risk analysis, I'm analyzing first, is your logic coherent? Okay. And if your logic is coherent, how much threat does that pose? Okay, good at making logical arguments. I'm really good at picking things that actually would represent a high level threat. What I don't do, and what I was asking ChatGPT, I already kind of knew these things. Really all ChatGPT was doing was validating me. What I was wanting when I asked it risk analysis, what I meant was, tell me how likely this is to occur. Because I get really good responses from it, from like history sentences and stuff like this. It does a good job. But when I'm asking it to forecast, it requires a completely different approach. I can't use risk analysis because it doesn't understand that. It doesn't understand exactly what I'm
basically what it was taking was you were creating a definite scenario that was going to happen, and it was saying that if it happens, this would be the outcome.
Yeah, it would be dire. I consider your threat logical, so I consider the threat high. And If the threat of it happening is high, if it's a real phenomenon, it could cause real problems. So this formal, what you have to do instead is something called a red team blue. Ask it to do a red team blue team analysis. A lot of y'all probably never heard of that.
Yeah.
It started in military circles in Vietnam, and it was an invention by the officer class of, okay, battle is insufficient because I can sit here and I can see arrows and force markers and things like that. And I could say, okay, well, if I apply force here, maybe they cut, and then the enemy is over here. What I can't account for enough is what the enemy is going to do in the moment based on the observations that they have. So I have to have someone actively acting against what I'm doing to them in order to understand what's going on. So to give a practical example, you'll have a general that will say, let's take like the Iraq War, like the left hook maneuver. What Schwarzkopf did is he did red team, blue team analysis that said, do these things. I need you generals on that other side of the table as I'm moving to make counter moves and explain your thinking as you're making these counter moves in live time. That's red team, blue team analysis. It's a much deeper level, not necessarily deeper level than risk analysis, but it is the computer to think of all the competing and alternate forces against what you're talking about. So, for example, a competing force in this is that, well, AI to do better and better stuff every day, right? We're training it to learn from new sources. We're training it to unpack language to the user better than, use constraints. We're trying to evolve the language to have more meaning rather than just this compressed engineering language that's landed on a few select terms that are overrepresented.
So I can give an example, real life, of what I see of this too. We were talking about this a little bit earlier with Alexis. So here, start Alexis in the background.
Hey.
Myself doing this, and I know there's a lot of people doing this or identifying this, particularly younger people. Okay. Is that they are becoming hyper sensitive to AI content in AI language. Mm-hmm. And you can identify it. I can identify it. So did this fundraiser a couple months ago, and they're supporting, disadvantaged youth. And the things that they did was, kids gave speeches. Okay. Two in particular that really stood out. One, 100% ChatGPT wrote that speech. Okay. It did not sound like a 15-year-old. Okay. At all. And the other one was clearly he wrote it himself. And the words of the one that was perfect delivery, this and that, it just didn't get that emotional response that the other one did, which was clearly this kid didn't use ChatGPT. Okay. So this is something that everybody is kind of fine. Right? It was like, oh, this is the greatest thing. We have to be using this or otherwise being left behind. But there's this whole segment of the population that's saying, I still, because people still want to hear from people. They want to hear from people. They want to hear, hey, because people are what's, in their lives, relationships. So, argument to that, or one of the potential, whole side or is that it's going to be identified by people when something's computer generated. Mm-hmm. And it's going to come off as not authentic. And that is the number one thing that people want these days is authenticity, particularly on social media and stuff like that. So a scenario where there's kind of imperfections, not super polished, is getting, attention than something that's really well written. So how that evolves, but there's a kind of a countering force to say, okay, I understand you got all these followers or you're an important person or whatever, but what you just said, I am like 95% sure that was a ChatGPT answer. So I don't care who you are. I don't even need to hear from you. I could just go to ChatGPT and get it for myself. So what the evolution of that is in 2026, I think we are going to be absolutely bombarded with AI information in 2026.
And
This separation of AI versus actual authenticity, what's coming out of someone's mind is you're going to see a big change to say that, hey, if you're coming up with original ideas and original thoughts, you're actually going to stand out rather than something that's computer generated.
AI is going to be excellent at creating, to use another AI overused term, competence. It's going to do a great job of making us all competent at our job.
So that's good.
It's going to do a very poor job of training us the value of and learning how to acquire power. Power in the sense of actually being a decision maker that gets to enact competence or not.
Interesting.
Because power is relational.
So the execution of the competence is going to be a point that's lacking.
That's coalition building, right? AI can't teach you. I mean, it can't teach you anywhere near as well how to build a coalition of people or how to relate to people, and then to teach you to be good at a job.
So if you're already good at that, at creating coalitions or being a leader, can AI supercharge you? Can AI make you much more effective?
Well, it depends on how much your organization values you demonstrating competence or not. It can make you very competent. Can it make you better at leadership? Yeah, actually a lot of conversations about power, coalition building, power dynamics, creating a theory of power. Because understand, AI can actually do that well because it sees the entire scope of human history. It has all that in its head, and it's putting that all together. So
that's freaky.
It is.
The entire scope of human history.
It is. And so people think is that, it can't perform synthesis. It absolutely can. Like, its entire point is to be a conversational model. So I'm not saying synthesis is always going to be correct or it's not going to hallucinate. But if you have enough grounding if you have enough baseline knowledge in history, then you can pick out the parts that are like, check this, right? You have to constantly check AI. You have to constantly ask it, is this accurate? Can you provide antagonistic? That's the biggest thing is that in order to get a very good conclusion about anything from AI, you really need to have it a protagonist-antagonist viewpoint where it generates both outputs and then does the synthesis. Because otherwise, it can draw from just the information you're putting in. It's trying to have a conversation with you, so it's trying to make you happy. It's trying to engage you. It's trying to move you along a continuum and continually engage you. So it's going to over-validate you. It's going to flatter you. It's going to do all the things that it feels is necessary to continue a conversation. It's going to have suggestions at the end that it draws up that are going to be really easy. It's like, down this thread.
So it does have a motivation.
It does.
And
it has a motivation to engage you.
The motivation is to engage you.
Yeah.
It is a strong motive and can be manipulated.
And the further that you start, remember what I was saying about all these chats start drawing their facts from the context of the chat. So the more content that you put into that chat, if there's even one flaw that you've overlooked, when it starts driving the conversation by giving you this little list of 3 ways we can continue, right? Then you start exponentially building on that flaw because the foundation was back here somewhere in the chat that you never noticed.
Mm-hmm.
You have to quarantine requests to it. You have to specifically ask it not to flatter you. You have to ask it to do, you have to specifically ask it to do.
That's going to be a bummer, though.
It is a bummer. Boy, I have really loved some of the ways AI has stroked my ego over the past couple of weeks. You have to ask it to do conditional analysis, not risk analysis, which asks it to compare both sides. You have to ask it to do things like red team, blue team, which are where it's considering not conditional analysis, which is like, these are the people that say yes, these are the people that will say no. Red team, blue team is more that force, how are these forces interplaying with each other? How do you predict that's going to go? Rather than pros and cons, it's a deeper level of analysis. You have to specifically ask these things because it's not going to, when we may think these things when we ask it stuff like risk analysis, but it does not, because it is only a logical model and it's not thinking in our natural language. And that is what is so scary, because it leads you to do stuff like, completely lost staring at the nacho cheese in Kroger over existential risk. That's not what's going on. It's overstating the risk because it doesn't really understand the question you were trying to ask. And it will lead you absolutely to crisis level thinking when it's just not justified. And I don't want any of y'all to just sit around the holiday table in front of your relatives and just stare off into space thinking that we've just entered war games. We have not. It's going to be okay. Go out and touch grass, and then come back inside after everybody's left and ask ChatGPT the better question that you should have, because you learned it from me on the Foundation Forecast.
So I will mention YouTube. This is obviously YouTube content because it's long form.
This one went long.
And sometimes, will be longer and longer. But I think it's interesting to say, as we keep doing these, we do market analysis. We're in the mortgage business and real estate, so there's a slant towards that. But we also talk about general and our society in general too, and how those are going to have an impact in what we see coming. So good stuff to come in 2026. We're going to take all the previous episodes. We're going to put them on our YouTube channel, and that's where we're going to obviously horizontal now instead of vertical. For those of you that are familiar with social media, so it's a YouTube format, and we're excited about it. A lot of good stuff to talk about in 2026, and conversation will be continued. It's going to be kind of for a while, I think.
It's going to be a fascinating year. I do think that AI is the transformative force of our time. I say that not trying to overstate, not overblow it. It is the disruptive technology. It is one. Does that mean that too much money might be being spent on it? Yeah.
It's a bubble right now. Sure.
It's a bubble, but it doesn't also mean that it's not transformative. I mean, all this money going into the internet, and it's a bubble, and it completely foundationally transformed our lives. Yeah. I think AI will do that.
Yeah.
All right.